On another note, obviously these scenes that played themselves out and are continuing to play themselves out in various communities echoed the state of emergency of the 80s and the comparisons that we can draw obvious enough. But allied to that, there's been a very, very binary approach to debate that's developed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, certainly within certain political spheres and public spheres and within civil society at large. My question is, going back to the Shooting Back archive, it's on one level a largely white archive, and of course there are photographs of wars that played out on the borders of other southern African countries. And I'd like you to just comment on how you would respond to questions around, this is a white document. This is a white documentation of a history that has little meaning in contemporary South Africa. How would you feel to a question along those lines?
Well, you know, you are what you are in the world. I was born and bred in this country. I consider myself an African. My great-grandparents came here as refugees from Eastern Europe and Russia in particular, where they were expelled from Moscow because they didn't earn enough money to enable them to live there. But you know, the military should not be also kind of left out of this understanding of my past history, because while Jewish people had faced, you know, discrimination and oppression in the Baltic states, one of the big issues for Jewish people in the 19th century was that they were recruited into the army, the Russian army, and not just a year or 2 years doing camps. We're talking about 12 to 20 years, right? To go and fight for a cause and you know, a very questionable, you know, kingdom that completely disregarded their sense of human rights as well. So that was, you know, definitely at the back of my family's minds when they took the boat and made Africa their home. On another level, you know, there are many ways to understand South Africa's history, and there are multiple historiographies and narratives. There's not one way of seeing the world. And as a photographer, I have always been aware of multiple narratives and multiple ways of seeing the world around me and of telling stories. This is my story. This is something that I'm close to. And I feel it's very important for me to tell the story. Whether it's considered important, whether it's considered necessary in the grand narrative of South African history, is not for me to really judge. I'm in this context, and in this particular process, I'm kind of being an artist and an activist, and raising issues that I think are important. And the militarization of South Africans, which impacted hugely on the indigenous population, the attempt to make us all complicit and obedient in that cause for a very questionable nationalist party, racist regime that was inhuman and kept the majority of people out of the vote and oppressed, was deeply part of what we were brought up with and what was part of our lifestyle, what was part of our lives at the time. So resisting that nemesis was for me a very positive thing. For me it was about finding value, it was about being human, and about siding with the oppressed masses who were also experiencing, grave difficulties at the time. Obviously, as a privileged person, middle-class person, I had a different experience, but I could, in the sense that we're all kind of part of history, and we're all victims of history. Doesn't matter which side of the track, or class, race, gender that you find yourself. I think it's important to have a holistic sense of history, and for us as particularly white resistors to tell a story that needs to be told and needs to be acknowledged. And I feel very proud and very let me just say that again. I feel very proud and emboldened by my association with a number of people who put their lives on the line to take a stand against apartheid and to resist the South African army. Some of them had a lot more courage and strength than I had.